Hello there, everyone. This is the novelette Wolf's Hunter by Bernadette Tiavacci, and this is Chapter 4, True Colors. Wolf moaned as she felt a sharp slap against her cheek. Her aching, bruised, all too human again cheek. Her head throbs with the pain of a likely concussion. She tried to bring her hands up to cradle it, but something prevented her from doing so. Another stinging slap made her grit her teeth in anger, and she forced her eyes open to glare at whoever was assaulting her. The hunter stared down at her, his scowling face completely devoid of any empathy. "Here, drink this." A canteen was shoved in her face. The demanding tone of his voice grated on her nerves. Wolf glared up at the hunter and wished fervently she was able to slap the canteen right out of his hands. Unfortunately, she felt the cold coils of what must be silver chains binding her arms to her sides, so she had to settle for snarling at him and averting her head in refusal. "Come on! Don't make this difficult. You've been unconscious for days because you were a fool and cut yourself on my silver dagger. You've got the silver fever, Wolf. You need to drink." "Hey, I'm sure you trying to split my skull had nothing to do with it," she growled at him. "Doesn't matter. I've got no intentions of returning with you, just so that bastard Caden can have me tortured to death." She glared at Hunter. "So you can take that canteen and shove it right up your arse." Hunter's deep growl of frustration made her laugh. "Sorry to disappoint you there, sunshine, but you'll soon find out I mean what I say. I'll die long before you get me back to Briley alive." "Little Wolf, I need to point out I currently have you bound and at my mercy." He arched an eyebrow at her. "I could simply force the water down your stubborn throat." Wolf gave him a smile that was far from humorous or pleasant. "Oh, you could, and I'll just vomit it up. Taught myself to vomit at will in case someone tried to poison me, or if I had to retrieve a swallowed key. You aren't going to force a damned thing down my throat, Mr. Hunter. At least, nothing that's gonna stay down." She could see the big man's jaw flex beneath the stubbled skin of his cheek. He set his canteen aside and glared at her as he sat in the dirt by her side. "You know, I've hunted down giants and ogres, even a dragon shifter or two in my time. So tell me, why is it that a scrawny little wolf shifter common as mud has proved to be so much more trouble?" "I'll tell you this, you're a rude son of a bitch and you can go straight to hell." "Oh, little wolf, I'm afraid I'm no longer welcome there." "Figures. I could see you being too much of a bastard even for hell to tolerate." Wolf eyed him with clear dislike. "If I'm such an awful bastard, then I suppose I should just torture you into submission." Hunter's icy eyes bore into Wolf's green ones, and though she felt fear welling up inside her, she hid it. "Everyone has a breaking point, even stubborn little wolf shifters." Wolf broke into weak laughter. Her ribs still smarted when she did, not fully healed from where Hunter had cracked them during their fight. She didn't let it show. Hunter arched his dark brows, and his pale eyes glittered maliciously. "Do you suppose I won't torture you, Wolf?" "Oh, no, I'm quite sure you would. Just wondered if you considered how much faster I'll deteriorate once you do. I'm already beaten to hell and starting to dehydrate. Start to torture me, and I'll probably go into shock pretty quickly." Wolf managed a shrug as she laid there chained in the dirt. "I think we both know silver ain't the only thing that'll kill a shifter. It's just the fastest route." Hunter stared at her, his expression going from irate to furious to homicidal. His huge fist clenched, and he drew it back as if to strike her. Wolf flinched involuntarily. With a sudden outburst of explicatives, Hunter let his fist drop into his lap, and he closed his eyes. Wolf could hear him breathing deeply, evidently struggling to regain control of himself. Wolf knew she should be beyond terrified at this point, but one reason she was so successful in the gladiator arenas was her ability to ignore fear. If she acted like a sniveling coward before this man, she suspected he'd treat her far worse than he currently was. Her green eyes focused on his face, and she took this moment to really study him. His face was hard and lined, but it didn't seem to be from old age if his absolutely jacked body was any indication. It looked more like his near-permanent scowl was carved on his rugged face by a life that had been far from pleasant. His face sported dark stubble, almost long enough to qualify as a short beard. It looked good with his sun-darkened skin, especially contrasted with those glacial blue eyes of his. Add in the long, blue-black hair that fell from underneath his wide-brimmed hat to flow over his broad shoulders to almost his mid-back. And honestly, had he not been a cold-hearted bastard who wanted to drag her back to a spoiled rich boy, and a more than likely unpleasant death, Wolf would have found him insanely attractive. She nearly giggled out loud at the absurdity of it. A shifter with the hots for the man who was the undisputed champion of killing shifters. Utter madness. She saw his lips suddenly thin into a disapproving line, and realized she'd been caught staring. She hadn't even noticed he had opened his eyes, too distracted by ogling him, she supposed. Flashing him a smirk she hoped was infuriating, Wolf decided to double down on the provocation of the giant man. And that's where we'll end the first part of Chapter 4.